Vegetarianism is a dangerous condition. Folks have to be informed and they need to know what they're doing. Now, here we have this young man. I didn't show his face, for obvious reasons. And I don't think his hand necessarily is malformed, so that just his two index finger and the thumb on that hand. But what he has in his tray there are grapefruit, and he had some bell peppers and grapes. Now, he's eaten at the mission, and the mission basically is not catering for vegetarians. And he doesn't eat meat. But he isn't intelligent to know that he has to have proteins, and perhaps he will need grains, nuts, and whatever else that you could get proteins from trace, and so on. But majority, if you're not using meat, you need to use, other things like, with proteins stuff. And this draws my mind to originally with Adam and Eve. People are thinking that they had this longevity and all the health because of the vegetarianism, and perhaps that is true. But you got to remember also the ground was fertile. God had planted very special varieties of fruits and whatever vegetation and so on. But over time, the devil got with scientists who start to play budding and sort of amalgamating different types of trees and so on. So we have now with thorns, thistles, foul smelling, external pollination with all this spring fever and sneezing and so on, and so on. And so even down to when Israel left Egypt going to the promised land, the spies in Canaan found some grapes that had to be carried by two men. One bunch was so heavy. And as we see from the skull here of this human, they were over 18 feet tall. Sometimes it could be 40 feet, 35. Can you imagine that with this big head like a car? And proportionate, of course. And so their bodies were made by God. Our bodies is different from theirs. They weren't animals, we are animals. Okay? They're saying that you have plant and animals, we are animals, simply because we have been amalgamating, or the original giants amalgamated themselves with other creations which were animals, and over time we've come to the place where we are this small. I don't think recently they've been doing this, but sometime in the past they stopped. However, cows and sheep and other animals that eat grass, they could digest cellulose, but today our bodies can't. And tigers and other flesh-eating animals, they could digest flesh and cells properly, so they get the nutrition that they need. I mean, tigers eat just meat. They get the energy and they get all that from the meat. Cows get energy and proteins from the grass. Now, what's the difference here? Adam and Eve, their stomachs were made special and the body was special, and they had enzymes that could have dissolved the cellulose and total cell membrane and so on, so they got the nutrients that they had. And of course the plants were different back then. You look at these seagulls, they would eat chicken bone, and when they defecate, it is white as if it's white as if it's calcium lacing a car or wherever they defecate, and so on. And cows, when they eat the grass, it doesn't show green again. They digest it completely and becomes, we could use it as humus for our plants and so on, and so forth. So that even snakes and alligators, no, pardon me, it seems as if their acids in their stomach could dissolve teeth and bones that from their prey, just as the seagulls. But our digestive substances are not sufficient to do the cellulose, and it's not equivalent to do the flesh. So we're right in the middle, and there's where we start. So now to go and say you're going to be just a vegetarian without trying to compensate with your proteins, that's one problem. And we cannot digest cellulose properly. Now, I know that God has ordered that his people become vegetarians, but they're going to be eating, of course, the greens, nuts, and so on, that will give them substituting the protein from the flesh, and then God is going to be in it blessing them, because just when Israel was going through the desert, for example, God gave them manna. What was manna? And their bodies were well taken care of, the vitamins, the minerals, everything, the calcium, total. they were having from that. So God has that capacity and that ability to do that, to bless your food and make it work. I remember when I went to college, just like that, I was thrown into vegetarianism. They had lentils and various types of beans, and I had to make sure I have some every day. And nobody on campus suffered from malnutrition. I know some people, they were so poor, all they could have done was use rice, get rice and some butter and put it on. I said, bro, man, you could eat on my statement sometimes, man. We could let you eat the wrong so that, you know, you could get your nutrients. But this guy went on to be a medical doctor. He was determined to do it. He had the money and he was willing to work hard. He's sleeping in class. He groaning, you know, he working hard and not eating properly. But yet he still was able to make it. He didn't die. God was there helping him out. So with this guy here and those who want to be vegetarians, I mean, be careful now. This guy here that we talked about, he seemed to be having a compromised intelligence. And I'm not sure who sold him onto this vegetarianism. But he's going to die real soon because you need that. For various functions, you need your proteins for heart functions, heart muscles, you know, the total intelligence and so forth, and it's going to kill him. So I hope that you know, people who aren't ill-advised would go on and try to be vegetarians and hurt themselves. This is a serious matter, and you have to give it thought. And also, you need to make sure that God is working with you, and He's going to bless you and help you out in your dietary change.